What do I say again?
Well, we talk about the embrace and like and follow.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all are so cute.
We'll edit all of this out.
Okay.
No, keep it. I love it.
We always have a blooper in there somewhere, so this will be a good blooper. Yeah.
Welcome to the Embracing Parenthood podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Tessa Stuckey. Tessa is an LPC, that's a licensed professional counselor. She is the author of For the Sake of Our Youth. And she's going to talk to us today about raising children in a world inundated with all kinds of internet apps and technologies and things that give our children access to all kinds of stuff that we just really have no idea what to do with. And Tessa's going to tell us what to do. Hi, Tessa.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Our first guest. We're so excited.
I'm excited too.
So I gave probably a really bad description of what you do and what your specialty is. Do you want to kind of clean that up for us?
I think you did a wonderful job, but
right.
I am a therapist and I work primarily with teenagers and parents, families. I work with young adults as well, but I kind of fell into working with teenagers and their parents, and a lot of the issues that get brought up is screen addiction and things related to screen. So,
Cool.
So on your most recent episode I was listening to on your podcast that you have, you'd kind of talked about some of the platforms that kids use, and I hadn't heard of over half of them. Do you want to kind of walk through the different platforms and things that have to do with each one? Just kind of educate us.
Where are the dangers, Tessa?
Yeah, help me. Help me.
Well, you wouldn't know about them because your kids are young.
I know.
So it's a good thing you don't know what these things are. And probably by the time your kids are old enough for stuff like this, it's going to be all new things. But right now, the things that I want parents to be aware of is really and truly anything that's online, there's a risk you're taking because there's just not any regulation with online stuff, and our kids can easily and accidentally, unintentionally fall into something, whether it's YouTube ads or something with porn or someone trying to chat with them. So you have to watch out for all the games and all the apps, really and truly, even Pinterest, which I love Pinterest.
I heard you say that on your episode and I was like, Pinterest, where I get my Instapot recipes?
I know.
Where we got our kitchen?
Yeah. My kitchen inspo, my nail inspo every 2 weeks.
I know. No, I love Pinterest. But
what is on Pinterest?
I don't love Pinterest for kids or teenagers. It's just a very aesthetically pleasing click away from everything online.
Oh, wow.
I
guess you could, even for me as an adult, I get a little bit of like, my house could be better, my hair could be better, my clothes could be better.
Comparing.
Like we did a whole episode about Pinterest moms because it just, there's like these standards that it tries to hold you to and you feel like you have to meet up to them. Yeah, the pressure is crazy.
Yeah.
Dads don't have that problem.
Dads don't.
I think like with Pinterest, like obviously it's like ever going, like there's no stopping point. So you're going to get that dopamine dump with Pinterest, but also the, like you said, the comparison stuff. But really for like kids and teenagers, like all they have to do is click and it takes them to another site.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that's super interesting that you brought up dopamine because I don't think a lot of parents really understand how our littles get dopamine and how different that is for them than it is for us.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
So dopamine is a natural chemical we make in our brain that is supposed to be little drips. That's the healthy amount that we get as humans. Little drips. We get that from smelling fresh baked cookies. We get that from finishing a book or completing a task. We can get that from spending time with others or getting a good hug. But what happens online with specifically games and social media is you get dopamine dumps. Okay. And those dopamine dumps are the same as what you would get if you went and gambled or if you went and did cocaine.
Oh, wow.
And they actually did a brain scan of a 5-year-old on his iPad. and a man high on cocaine, and the amount of dopamine was almost identical
Oh
in
my
each of the
gosh.
brains. So it's
like
a lot.
only let your kids do iPad time on really special occasions.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
When they're sick.
Yeah, when they're sick.
Or
when
you're sick.
Yes, when you're sick.
And then that's when you're going to see that those addictive qualities, or you take it away and they throw these huge fits because they can't regulate themselves. I mean, adults have a hard time regulating themselves after so much dopamine. So a little one is really going to struggle with that too.
Sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So is dopamine different in kids than it is adults as far as the dumps go? Like, do I get a dump when I get on Instagram?
Yes, you do.
Oh, wow.
But your brain is fully developed, right?
So I'm told.
Yes. And so you handle it. You handle it differently, but you're still going to have those. You're still going to have effects from it, right?
Yeah.
And then it creates addiction. And then the thing that is the saddest for me as a therapist is seeing these kids. They don't find any joy in anything else. You know, those fresh baked cookies do nothing for them. They can't wait to get back on their gaming system, or they can't wait to go get back on Snapchat or Discord or Omegle or Pinterest or TikTok or whatever. And like, that's their whole world.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
adults have things that they have to do. Right? Like we have jobs. We have to get up and go to work. We have to, get them up and get them fed.
Take care of them.
Take, some better than others, of course, but kids don't have responsibilities. They don't have in the back of their minds, like, I have this thing that I have to do. So when you try to take a device from them, they're like, bro.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of a game.
Yeah. And what else am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really good point. I'm really big on balance, right? And like, I'm not anti-tech by any means, but we want to provide balance, whether our kids are little teenagers or even as adults. So we as adults, we have those responsibilities and we have things that we have to get done, and that naturally creates that balance. But with kids, like you said, like, they have the freedom to lay around much more than we do. And so it's harder for them to achieve that balance.
So what do you suggest parents do as far as, like, if they're going, like you said, balancing out, letting them have screen time? Do you tell parents to do, like, if they have a good day, they can have 30 minutes, or like a reward system, or like, what do you find that works?
No, I don't like using it as a reward system.
Okay.
I like when parents use screens to be productive, in the sense for kids to be creative.
Okay.
So like art apps or stuff like that. Like, my kids love the YouTube channel Art Kids Hub or something like that. And it's this awesome dad who just teaches kids how to draw different things.
Oh, Luke's done that before.
And it's so much fun. And I'll do it with them, and it's really fun. So things like that kind of push that creativity, or like they'll play on the iPad with GarageBand and like create a song. Like, that's exciting to them.
That's cool.
That's creating something. But when they get lost in games and scrolling on TikTok and that sort of thing, like, that's most likely going to be that unhealthy part. And so I like for parents to delay as long as they can. Like, don't even introduce screens if you don't have to. TV is different. TV is different from using tablets and devices. One is, it's not as convenient. So you can't bring the TV with you to the restaurant, right? So TV also doesn't have the same blue light lighting behind it. So it doesn't affect the eyes and the brain the same way. And you're not going to get all those same apps. There are some apps on TVs, right? Like YouTube and stuff like that.
Sure.
But mostly TVs are meant for shows,
right,
and movies. And so that is a little bit healthier because it's less interactive and less of that dopamine dump. Because you get those dopamine dumps from like the short videos, or getting likes on your Instagram posts and that sort of thing.
Our kids these days, they'll never know what it's like to have to sit through commercials.
I know.
Like on Sunday morning cartoons.
That used to be one of my rules with my kids, was that I refused to fast forward commercials. And that was when my kids were little. There wasn't as much streaming as it was actually watching shows with commercials. And that was one of my rules, was like, you guys are going to have to suffer with commercials.
Well, now it's the ads too on
Mhm.
YouTube, and it'll pop up an ad, and all three of my kids in unison will scream, "Mom, it's an ad!" And I'm like, deal with it.
So you mentioned that you like parents to delay
Yeah.
as long as possible.
Yes.
But we've got a lot of listeners who are about to have children.
Yeah.
Or just had their first
Yes.
kid, right?
Mhm.
So delay as long as possible is
Mhm.
very vague for them.
Okay.
What do you think? And obviously, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like it's a case by case basis. Every kid matures at a different rate.
Absolutely.
What are the things that parents should look for from their children before they introduce them to some sort of device that they can control?
Yeah. So studies show that our kids don't need to be on any device, even TV, until after the age of 2,
Wow.
just for developmental purposes, brain development, that sort of thing, so that they can learn to make eye contact, so that they can engage and learn to speak and, you know, hand-eye coordination and that sort of thing, gross motor skills.
Yeah.
So that's what is suggested already. And that's been the case for a very long time. So
Yeah.
that's not new.
Mhm.
But I really don't like the idea of filling boredom or silence with screens. So going out to eat, I know for me, when we were the crazy people that took our 4 kids out to eat when the twins were little, and it was really easy. Oh, are y'all those people too?
Yeah.
We do that, except we
Yeah.
just get a big plate of fries and put them in the
Yeah,
middle.
that's great. And when they were really little, I would like freak out if I didn't have the iPad with us, because I wanted to make sure that they were going to be occupied
Right.
and chill while we're out to eat, when really that's doing a big disservice to them, because they're not learning how to be out to eat and you're not connecting with them. And that starts really young.
Sure.
I remember I tell this story and I almost cry every time I tell the story, but when my oldest son was really little, we went out to eat and I put him in the what's it called?
High chair.
High chair. Thank you. And and I couldn't, like, he kept fussing and I forgot the iPad. Ugh. And he just kept fussing and I'm just like, what is wrong with him? And then finally I got my phone out and I pulled up some like little game and I handed it to him and he stopped fussing. And as we were getting up to leave, I realized that his little foot was stuck in the high chair and he was sitting the whole time, like with his little foot stuck. And so instead of me trying to figure out what's wrong or teaching him to soothe himself, or me, taking him out and bouncing him around or investigating a little bit, I just muted it with my phone.
Yeah.
And that really hit me really hard. I felt really guilty. I felt horrible. And I just like, okay, maybe this phone thing isn't so healthy. Like, we need to actually be connecting. And really and truly, the problem is your child is probably going to be fine if you bring the iPad out to eat when they're little. But at what point do you stop doing that?
Right. And then how do you explain that to them?
You're setting the tone for your family. And so when they're 3 and they're throwing fits, no, you want to make sure they're not throwing fits out to eat, right? Or 5, when they're going to throw themselves on the ground, 7, when they don't want to eat anything unless they watch their show. Like, you set the tone. And so I'm a big believer that you start from the very beginning of just not having it be an option, and things will be a whole lot easier later on.
So great for parents who can take that advice now.
Yeah.
What about the rest of us who already screwed up?
Yeah.
So how do we undo the damage we've done so far?
So
What
I was
do
that.
we do?
I was that, right? I was that mom who really depended on the iPad when we would go places or do things, or even at home, I had a lot to do or I didn't feel good. It was just much easier. Like, you guys get on your devices and play your games and watch Frozen over there and you watch Mickey Mouse over there, and everyone's happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do a big family reset. Once I had numerous clients coming in and they were all struggling with some really dark mental health situations. And they kept coming and saying, I just want an instant fix. I just want an instant fix. And it dawned on me, oh my gosh, you've grown up in a world where everything is instant,
Yeah.
where everything is handed to you. You don't have to be bored. You don't have to struggle through waiting for your food to come. You don't have to find something creative to do when your mom is doing the dishes because you've had a device. And that's when it hit me. So my kids at this point were 4, 2, and then the twins were like 6 months old. And I just was like, all right, we got to take them all away. And so I just took them all away. So depending on how old your kids are, you can just take them all away and do a big family reset where it's like, okay, this is just going to be our new norm where we don't depend on that. And the hard part is, as parents, we can't depend on it, right? Because that's what happens, right? I need you to watch this so I can go take a shower.
Right.
But so we have to learn to condition ourselves a little bit differently too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I am a big fan of just taking them away. Usually when they're, 4th, 3rd grade and younger, just take them away. It'll be a couple of days. You'll get some pushback because that's their expectation. That's all they've known. I promise you'll see a turnaround.
You just give them something else to do, like coloring book,
Play-Doh, Legos.
Like take them away forever until they're old enough to deal with them? Okay.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that.
Does that include TV?
No. So if you're comfortable with them watching a little bit of TV here and there, that's fine. I don't like kids watching TV all day long.
Right.
There are days for that.
Right.
Really.
But what does that mean? Like, what do you... I did a little research before we had you on, and I'm familiar with the 2-year thing from, I think, the Academy of Pediatrics or something like that. But they're also saying that like an hour or 2 hours of TV is too much.
Too much, I know.
That's not a lot of TV.
Yeah,
not
that goes by really fast, right? Yeah. That really is a case by case. You have to figure out what's best for your family. I would encourage, that's when you focus on the balance, right? So like as long as they're sleeping good, they're eating good, and they are being creative and busy in other ways, and then you balance it with some downtime with a couple of movies, that's okay.
So that's where, when I told you the other day about the toy rotation idea.
Yeah, I love that.
That you don't put out a lot of toys, but you just put out a few and you rotate them out, and you make your kids sort of choose from this small selection, and their creativity blossoms. Over time, they kind of, instead of wanting a specific activity or a specific thing, they just make their own fun with what they have, which is a super healthy.
Yes.
It creates super healthy adults who don't have an issue with being idle, being bored, or whatever.
Plus the novelty effect. So when you rotate them out, they have like this novelty effect. Like, oh, I haven't seen these blocks in, 2 weeks. They don't know it's been 2 weeks, but I haven't seen it in forever.
Yeah.
And they're so excited to see it again,
We started talking about that because I was complaining about having to clean up the disaster of a playroom. And he was like, this wouldn't happen if you just only had out a couple at a time. I was like, that's actually a really great idea.
Yeah.
We've got one kid that wants, every now and then you want to get your kid something new.
Yeah.
But we've got one kid that always wants a small stuffed animal.
That's all he wants.
But
a new one.
A new one.
Yeah.
So we have, like in the playroom, we have these big, deep drawers.
They're
just
full of stuffed animals.
Yeah.
And when he wants a specific one, he pulls all of them out.
Oh my gosh, yes. And dumps them out.
Yeah, but he never puts them back.
Well, why would he?
Exactly.
Mommy will do it.
Yeah. No, my kids are the same. That part doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
Another thing is, boredom is one of the first really uncomfortable emotions that our kids feel and recognize, right? Obviously, there's uncomfortable emotions they feel, like hunger and being tired leading up to it. But when they're like toddlers and they start to feel bored, that's the first one humans really remember feeling. And it's really important for us to let that happen.
Yeah.
Let that struggle happen. And I promise, and I tell parents this of young kids all the time, I promise that the inconvenience of living life without screens while they're little is so worth it to not have the heartache of some of the emotional distress that is headed your way if you give them screens too young.
And you have time to fix it, right?
And you have time to build emotional strength and resilience that's needed. And it can start with boredom. that's needed to get through life, and then they, once they hit those hormonal years and they haven't built that resilience and they only want an instant fix, their thoughts get pretty dark pretty fast.
So that's a great segue into, I think, something else that you touched on earlier. Teens these days. Oh my gosh. What is up with these kids? The world is so different than when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before we started, right?
When was that? Like 1950s?
World War II. It was a wild time.
Yeah, not that long ago, right? We were teenagers in the 2000s. It wasn't the early 2000s. It was not that long ago that it feels so different. And I really do blame a lot of it on social media and the internet.
Well, texting, we didn't even have texting until like high school.
I mean, it cost 75 cents.
I know. And if you went over your texts,
oh my
and you
gosh.
had to hit all the buttons.
Or
not
T9.
if you T9'd it. Yeah. I could T9 while I was driving.
I remember
That's
my dad made me pay for all my text messages. So and you would get charged if you opened a text message.
Yeah.
So I was very picky about who I opened and who I sent text.
At least it didn't have red receipts back then. You didn't
I
hurt
know,
anybody's feelings.
right.
But yeah, it's a different time now.
Back when I was in high school, we just spelled boob on a calculator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the best. I remember that.
So we were ancient,
What?
We had games on our T9.
8008,
Yeah.
right?
And we had games on our
Snake. Do you remember Snake?
on our
No,
calculators.
the TI-85.
Oh,
The
yeah.
TI-85s.
Yep. Oh my gosh, good times.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot has changed. Teenagers come to me with some really dark stuff. And when I start to peel back the layers to try to understand, where's the trauma? Where's the neglect? Where's the abuse? Where's the depression? Where's, the emotional abuse happening at home? Where's the substance use? It's not there. And so then I realized what is happening.
Right.
And a lot of it is culturally affecting them. And I'm sorry, it's from screens and it's from that immediate fix, that need for instant gratification. It's from the content they're absorbing online. We become what we consume, and our kids are getting, TikTok and Instagram at like 8 and 9 years old.
Gosh.
Oh,
And they're seeing stuff. Like y'all have been on TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram. Like, what's on there.
I've never been on TikTok.
I know.
That's where I sell my embraces.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with TikTok too,
Yeah.
is it's very tricky because there's so many pros that people get from it.
Yeah.
And the teenagers will argue and fight me to the death about how great TikTok is. But for teenagers, I don't care what they say. There's nothing good about it.
I loved your brownie analogy.
I know. I love that story.
Did you hear that on her thing? I
Mhm.
loved it.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing?
No, absolutely. So, a girl comes up to her mom and says, "Mom, I really want TikTok. Can I please get TikTok? Everyone has TikTok. It's totally fine. There's only a little bit that's inappropriate, but I'll make sure that I work the algorithm so that it's all healthy and good for me. And, if there's anything negative, I'll just swipe right by it. It's totally fine." And the mom says, "Let me think about it. I haven't heard good things. I don't like the idea of this, but let me think about it." And she goes, "Please, Mom, everyone has it." She goes, "Let me just, think about it. You go do your homework. I'm going to make some brownies and we'll talk about it." And the daughter comes back. She goes, "Mom, did you think about it?" And she said, "I did. And I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable with you having TikTok, but why don't we eat some brownies and talk a little bit more about it? But before you eat any of these brownies, you should probably know that I put a little bit of the dog poo-poo in it. Just a little bit, though. The rest is good. Just a little bit is in there." And the daughter's like, "What?" Ew. Obviously, that's not a real thing that happens, but it's a great analogy for what our kids are getting into. I always say TikTok is, I really dislike TikTok the most because that's where all the kids are. But it's like 95% negative and 5% decent.
Right.
The chances of them seeing stuff and engaging in inappropriate stuff on TikTok
The
is
crazy
very high.
TikTok challenges and
Yeah.
scary stuff.
All I see is pregnancy-related material.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
You're
right?
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So when you are having a discussion, like the analogy that we're talking about with the
Mhm.
brownies, are there things that parents should be looking for to know if their kids both boys and girls.
Mhm.
And I think there's kind of a stigma out there that girls are struggling more with social media than boys. Is that true?
A little bit. That there is truth to that. Boys really are struggling with video games and pornography, and girls are struggling, but a lot of it comes from social media. Like that's kind of the segue for them. And girls are struggling with like body image and comparing themselves and FOMO more with social media.
So what do you look for to know if your kid is ready to have social media?
That is a very good question. So what I tell people is I want my clients, my teenage clients, to be able to prove to me that they know all the negatives that they're going to be getting into if they get a social media account. And if they can name at least 10 negative things, then I'm like, all right, maybe you're ready for it.
What age is that usually?
I say 15 or 16.
Okay.
Which is such an unpopular opinion.
Sure.
I've got 11, 12, 13-year-olds who have had it since third grade, and it's hard. It's really hard. Once you give it to them, it is really hard to take it away. I've never had a parent say, oh, I wish we gave it to her sooner.
Right.
But they all come and say, I wish we waited. I wish we did not get into this. This has ruined our family, or this has ruined her. She's a completely different person. I mean, it really is like a drug, really and truly.
So if you have this practice inundated with people that are young people that are struggling, what do parents look for? Signs when they need to come see someone like you?
When they're struggling.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Kids are so good at hiding their stuff. I was really good at it at 16. Yeah. Nobody knew.
Really?
I was going through anything.
Yeah. Well, there's the age-old signs that we know with other stuff, like isolating or a change in behavior, like if they've always gotten A's and B's and all of a sudden they're flunking everything. Or there's problems with their friends that it's out of character. There's going to be problems with friends. The problem with teenagers is we never know, is this hormonal?
Right.
Or is this a real issue? And that's been the case in the mental health field for a long time.
I'm sure.
And so a lot of times it's like, has to be really intense for us to like our ears to perk up. But now I'm a big believer that now there really aren't that many signs. So we need to start having those conversations with our kids, start talking to them more, and start looking at what they are looking at online.
When you say that one of the bigger issues for boys is pornography, is that in all of those social media apps? Or
yes.
They're not just going to like Pornhub.com and looking at porn?
No. And the average age for kids to see porn for the first time is 8.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's unnerving, right?
I mean, it's so accessible.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in your pocket if you have a smartphone.
Yeah. I mean, you're accessible to everything.
I just thought they were going on the browser. I didn't know it was in the social media apps. I mean, of course, there's scandalous photos on Instagram, but I wouldn't.
But even recently, Spotify, there was a glitch in the system.
I saw that.
And they fixed it, but not everything. What were they?
It was like you just
music videos. You search music videos.
And just audio of porn was on Spotify. I saw you posted that on Instagram.
Yeah. And then
what?
Yes.
Like audio tracks from
that is crazy.
Pornography. You could listen to it on your music streaming device.
Or on TikTok, if you type into the search bar how to, just those 2 words, and then push search, look and see what comes up.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, what else? What other advice do you have
what else
for parents?
Do you guys need
all
to
of
know?
the things. All of the things.
I think we've covered so much in such a short amount of time.
I think it gets very overwhelming very fast.
Yeah.
And it can be very defeating and exhausting. And that's why I like parents to delay as long as you can, because if you're not up for that overwhelming task of monitoring and protecting, then your family's just not ready for it. Because once you open that door, you as a parent to care for your child really do need to stay on top of it. It's not just making sure your window is locked so they don't sneak out anymore. That's not happening, by the way,
right?
At all.
They don't need to sneak out to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I used to put the car in neutral.
Oh, yeah.
Push it out of the driveway.
Sure you
yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah. My boyfriend would come turn the lights off and like come around the cul-de-sac and turn the car off so it wasn't loud. And I would sneak out of the second floor and climb down.
Y'all were
the
bad.
house.
Every weekend.
I never had to sneak out.
Some
Oh.
weeknights.
Yeah,
Okay,
same.
Most
Same.
weeknights.
Same. I was bad. I did do a lot of that. But I don't know. I thought it's innocent compared to what these kids are
But now
getting
you've got
into.
cameras,
It was-
ring
it
cameras.
was- It wasn't innocent.
Okay, not totally innocent, right? But yeah. So I mean, we could definitely go down that rabbit hole. But
Let's not.
let's
Say
not
we did.
expose all that. I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh, we have to worry about our kids under our roof now,
Right.
online. You know, there's predators we have to watch out for, and predators are very good at knowing where the kids are. I mean, there's predators on Roblox who are chatting with our kids, pretending to be 12-year-olds, and they coerce them into meeting up with them or doing stuff, and Snapchat, all of it. There are things that we need to worry about. So what I tell parents is to delay. But when you think you're ready to really invest time in learning what apps they are, get the app yourself and explore it like crazy. And then I'm really big on those external routers that help block the inappropriate sites. We have the Griffin router when COVID hit and I had to homeschool 4 kids.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
God
my
bless you.
gosh. Oh, thank you. I don't know how I got through it. Like, it is a blur, but each of them had their own iPad. I think my son had a Chromebook. The oldest had a Chromebook and the rest had iPads. And I was freaking out because here I am like, no, we don't do devices,
Yeah.
you know? And then
Now your whole world
all
is
of
on
a
a device.
sudden- And
No
so
way.
I flipped out and like, their teachers are sending YouTube videos to watch for the lessons. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know? So I got the Griffin router, and the Griffin router is just a mesh Wi-Fi that connects to your modem that stops all the inappropriate sites from even being an option. And I have tested it and it works. It's
Okay, good.
really helpful.
What about some of the generic video games like the kids play, like Minecraft
Yeah.
and Fortnite?
Mhm.
Are there? It's not like Roblox, is it? Can
No,
they
I think-
chat on those?
Yes, there are options to not get online. So that's
Okay.
what I like it. If there's an option to not get online, then that is your family's norm. Like, getting online is not an option for your family. But if there is an option to get online, you just have to be really careful and stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And it really, that part scares me when they can chat and stuff. Yeah,
Ugh.
I know.
Well, if people want to know more,
Mm-hmm.
they can read your book. Again, this is Tessa Stuckey, and it's For the Sake of Our Youth. Where can they get your book?
Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can they find you on the internet?
They can. I'm on Instagram at The Mom Therapist. Don't mistake it for The Mom the Rapist. Now no one will forget the name. And my website, tessastuckey.com.
Okay.
And yeah, I have the podcast For the Sake of Our Youth. And the first season of the podcast really goes deep into the book. And then the second season, I have a lot of guests on. And then now I've just started launching the third season. So,
Awesome.
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
You want to take us out?
Yeah. Okay. And as always, don't forget to check out The Embrace at www.theembrace.com. Also follow us on Instagram, The Embrace Official.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Have
Bye.
a good night. I was like, wait, what did we say again?